to the Israeli national anthem, Hatikra. Please join me if you can.
And now one statement from the Honorable Elizabeth May, Member of Parliament and leader of the Green Party of Canada. It's with great regret that I send a message instead of attending our local commemorative event. As a parliamentarian and National Party leader, I felt the solemnity and importance of the horrific anniversary required I attend the event organized by the embassy in Ottawa. The horrific, in fact, savage and barbaric attack on innocent civilians in Israel on October 7th represents the worst act of senseless violence against Jews since the show. Those responsible are known to us. The illegal terrorist organization Hamas coordinated the dreadful assault. For members of Canada's Jewish community, the attack struck very close to home. All of us with Jewish family know the rite of passage in sending our young people to Israel to work on kibbutz. The attack on people living in that iconic kind of community, one grounded in principles of cooperation and nonviolence, just made the horror more searing. The taking of so many innocent people as hostages, some held to this day, has only added to the agony for so many families. And so to all of that, I would like to just say a few opening words as well. So first of all, it is an incredible privilege for me to be with all of you tonight. And as I arrived today, as I look out into the faces who are assembled here, I see so many dear faces that are familiar to me. But even those of you that I have not yet met, if you're Jewish, I know that we will have an instant connection because we are connected through our shared history, our shared culture, our shared experiences. It's literally in our DNA. We are one family. We are mishpucha. When Jews meet each other for the first time, we often play what we jokingly call Jewish geography. And so you say, oh, you're from New York or Toronto, Philly, and eventually within minutes, you're able to connect someone you know with someone they know who went to summer camp with you or sat behind you in synagogue or something like that. And I can't tell you how many times, for example, when I'm watching a movie or a TV show, I hit pause, pull up my phone and Google, and then look over to my husband triumphantly and say, I knew he was Jewish. And I know nothing makes sense. And that's because we rejoice in each other's successes, whether we're talking about actors or athletes or Nobel Prize winners. And conversely, we often feel a collective shame when one of us does wrong. And I think about the Bernie Madoff scandal and how so many of us felt that. And so that's why on October 7th, the ground gave way beneath our feet. We all remember where we were as the news began to trickle in, and the slow, sickening realization set in that this was not another small border skirmish, but something unimaginably worse. Men and women, young and old, children and babies, Holocaust survivors, Peace Festival attendees, and teenagers sitting on their beds scrolling on their phones, uh, were tortured, were raped, were murdered. Sometimes, and it's even hard for me to say this, and I know it's hard for you to hear it, even though we all know this, but some being burned alive and so on. And of course, many people were kidnapped. And with these horrors sometimes being live streamed by the perpetrators of these crimes. And in the coming days, young Jews from all over the globe left schools, left jobs, left lives in unprecedented numbers to come to Israel's defense. And I just remember one photograph in particular that's burned in my mind. It was on, I think, Instagram or something, of a plane full, an El Al flight full of these young people on their way home. And I keep wondering what has happened to those people. And there was so much hope and joy, and even though they must have been terrified inside, they were there. They heard the call and they came. And all of this is why when I'm asked if I have family in Israel, especially by non-Jewish friends, I reply, no, but yes. Everyone I know, and I'm sure all of you in this room are the same, is that everyone I know is one degree of freedom from someone who was directly impacted by what happened on October 7th and the ongoing trauma. Through the work that I do as an archaeologist working in the Middle East, I'm connected through a close friend to those who, due to their expertise in forensics, have been charged with undertaking the grim but necessary task of identifying the victims of the October 7th massacre. Many of them, as you know, mutilated beyond recognition. I mean, there's a reason why we keep getting additional information about who was massacred. That it didn't take that long to ID them. The weight of what these colleagues have seen and the weight of what they know must be unbearable, and yet they continue to do their important work, documenting the atrocities and giving a voice to those who lost theirs that day. I often feel that I'll never be the person I was when I first woke up on October 7th, that there's been a line drawn that divides my life before October 7th and since, that I've lost some of, as I described to a friend, I've lost some of my lightness that I thought was part of me. And it's not even just the news, it's the silence of some of our friends. And I know, again, I'm not alone in that. And sometimes it's even worse when they decide not to be silent. And even today, at my own place of work where I work at UVic, there were those celebrating the October 7th atrocities. And so it makes it so hard to come in every day to continue work there. And it's easy to fall into despair. But then I think of those colleagues who were working to bring justice for the victims of October 7th and the closure to the families they left behind. And I'm forced to remember that we're not united only by our shared grief, but we're also united by our shared determination, our shared resilience, and our shared hope. And as others have said before me, and I think we'll probably hear more about this tonight, it's not only holding hope, but it's doing hope. And from the global to the very local to the very intimate, it's people coming back to shul. It's people lighting Shabbat candles maybe for the first time. And it's wearing our Magen Davids. And we do that not only for ourselves, but we do that so it's safe for others to do. And so doing hope is also working to heal and protect our community. And in that, I thank all of our non-Jewish allies who are here tonight. Your support means more than you will ever know. And more than anything, Do and Hope is drawing on our thousands of years of history and knowing, being able to take that perspective and knowing that we will one day be on the other side of this horror and that we will continue, that we are one family, that we are Mishpucha and Israel Chai. Thank you. And before we move to our keynote speaker, we're going to have a musical interlude. Annabelle singing 10 Soft Breaths.
עוד שנה חלפה, עוד שנה תרופה, עשבים שוטים עלו בשביל ובגן, רוח ננח, את התריס פתח, הוא מכה בקיר הישן, כמו קורא הביתה, הביתה, באה עת לחזור מן ההרים משדות זרים, היום דועך ואין סימן, הביתה, הביתה, טרם רדת אור, לילות קרים, לילות מרים, קרבים עכשיו לכאן, עד עלות השחר, מתפללת לשלומך, שבויה באזיקי פחדים, אני שומעת צעדים, הביתה, הביתה, כי עוד לא הוחזר כל מה שהובטח לנו מזמן. השנים חולפות, השנים קוטפות, ואנחנו לא מצאנו עוד מנוחה. יום הולך ובא, לכי רטובה, ומוחה דמעה מלוכה, כמו קורת הביתה, הביתה, באה עת לחזור, לסוף דרכים מרווחים, היום דועך ואין סימן, הביתה, הביתה, טרם רדת אור, אל חלומות ללא חומות, אל לילה בלי כאב, עד עלות השחר, מתפללת לשלומך, שמרי שמרי ארצי שלי, שברי חלום ישראלי, הביתה, הביתה, כי עוד לא הוחזר כל מה שהובטח לנו מזמן, הביתה, הביתה.
So I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker for this evening, Peter Nadler. Peter Nadler is a retired Victorian BC tribal lawyer and mediator and arbitrator. He also has extensive experience in the entertainment industry, in film and TV and stage. He is currently an advocate against anti-Semitism and all forms of hate. He is a member of the Victoria Show Project and one of the founding members of the Victoria Holocaust Theatre Production Society, which produces the survivors play. And that's how we got to know each other. And they also a wonderful, wonderful human being that I've gotten to learn over the last few months. And just to say the survivor play, that he's hoping to organize tours, BC middle and high school, middle schools and high schools, teaching history and the evils of the Holocaust. So please join me in welcoming Peter Mather.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, generous introduction. We're gathered here tonight to mark the first anniversary of the October 7th, 2023 massacre. Today is a day of remembrance and of solidarity. The Jewish people have been attacked for centuries. We were enslaved in Egypt until 960 BCE. The Romans expelled us from Israel, renaming it Palestine in 7 BCE. The Spanish Inquisition in the 15th century tortured, killed, exiled Jews and caused tremendous worldwide upheaval. The pogroms in the 19th century in Europe were the prelude to the greatest genocide known as the Shoah, or the Holocaust. And even after, the Soviet persecution of Jews persisted into the latter years of the 20th century. But despite all that, the efforts to destroy the Jewish people, we have survived, and we have always proven to be resilient. However, nothing prepared our community for the Shabbat of October 7th, 2023, when Israel experienced the deadliest terrorist attack in its history. Hamas reached the border, invading Israel, murdering 1,200 people, nearly half of them innocent revelers at a Nova music festival. Thousands were wounded, 250 people were abducted to the Gaza Strip, including children, women, senior citizens, and foreign nationals. Women were sexually assaulted brutally. Over 100 hostages are still held in captivity or are unaccounted for. The attack was brutal and barbaric. This was the largest and most ruthless attack on Jews since the Holocaust. The wounds are deep and far-reaching, and many Canadians were caught up in this massacre. Judith Weinstein Haga, 70, was killed at her kibbutz home. She was an artist and a volunteer who pursued many initiatives to advance peace in the region. Her brother said, "We are inspired by my sister who believed in peace and harmony. She had classes for Palestinian and Israeli children, and she lived so close to the border of Gaza because she felt a tremendous empathy for the Palestinian neighbors." Vivian Silver, 74, originally from Winnipeg, murdered at her kibbutz home. She dedicated her life to peace building and fostering understanding between Israelis and Palestinians. She was a founding member of Women Who Wage Peace, which advocates for women to be involved in ending the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. She also volunteered to help children in Gaza access medical care in Israel. She often drove them across back and forth. She was a tireless advocate for peace and for women's rights. Her grandchild and a community space and kitchen in a displaced people's camp in Gaza have been named after her. Tiferet Lampido, 22, killed while attending the Nova Music Festival. She was a charismatic and compassionate person who had traveled the world, taught in Africa, and spent time in Australia before she returned to Israel in the fall. Lampido phoned her mother during the attack, whispering that she was hiding in a bush as gunmen fired upon the crowd until her phone disconnected. Netta Epstein, 21, an Israeli-Canadian born in Montreal. He was sheltering with his girlfriend in a safe room at the Kfar Aza kibbutz when Hamas gunmen broke inside. They shot him and tossed an explosive at the couple, but Epstein smothered it with his body. His girlfriend, Irene Shavit, survived. He served in the IDF until August and he had worked with special needs youth. It's really important that the world knows what we went through, his mother said. The people that live on our kibbutz hold their hands out in peace. Shir Georgi, 22, an Israeli Canadian, was killed by Hamas also at the Nova Music Festival. She was last seen in a short video from that Saturday morning, huddling in a small shelter with a police officer and other party goers. Her family clung to the video as a hope that she had managed to escape, but after a week of searching, they were informed that her body had been identified. Her mother said Shir wanted to fall in love and have at least 6 children and be a scriptwriter. Her friends remembered Shir as someone who loved life. She had a sun tattooed just behind her ear because she always wanted to radiate light. Adi Vital Kaplun, 33, was killed in her kibbutz in Gaza. The family said she died a hero after convincing her killers to spare her 2 young children and warning her father and her husband to stay hidden during the attack. Adi was a beautiful woman who brought love and lightness to the people around her. She was also a talented dancer, saxophonist, and basketball player. Ben Mirzaki, 22, from Vancouver, was one of the young people gunned down at the Nova Music Festival. He was described as larger than life with a big personality by his former high school, King David. Mirzaki was about to start university in Israel after serving as a paratrooper with the IDF. He was remembered as a kind, wonderful, and community-minded young guy who had a positive influence on everyone around him. Alexandre Luc from Montreal, who had recently celebrated his 33rd birthday, was killed while attending the Nova Music Festival. His dad said, like a true warrior, he left as a hero, wanting to protect the people he was with. His friend described him as a once-in-a-lifetime person. He was a proud Jewish Canadian and a generous person who would do anything for his friends. He's a person who loves people. He's the guy that's always going to help others. Let's now take a moment and remember and hold in our hearts all of those who perished, that are still missing, and who are suffering from this tragedy. The physical and emotional trauma as a result of October 7th is palpable. Israel is still suffering from the event, the war, and uncertainty regarding the fate of the hostages. And Gaza and now Lebanon are suffering both from the repressive rule of Hamas and Hezbollah and the war, which brought death and destruction. And our community here is suffering. My cousin Susan, an Israeli Canadian who lived in Israel for 18 years, shared some thoughts with me that she wanted to share with you. She said, I have 3 sons who served in the IDF and mourn every soldier killed or wounded in the ongoing battles. I know what a mother experiences when her children are facing real danger, whether as a soldier or as a civilian. My family experienced the trauma of the Second Intifada. My daughter, Hadass, survived the infamous Pizza Parlor bombing, where 20 young children on vacation died, only because Hadass had changed seats at the very last moment. On October 7th, a small moshav at the Gaza border, where my niece, her husband, and 2 small children live, was one of the first to be invaded by Hamas. They hid for 12 hours in their safe room and narrowly escaped being murdered. I will never forget the nightmare experienced by my brother and sister-in-law as they waited for any sign of life from their daughter and grandchildren while the massacre of October 7th unfolded. The events of October 7th also brought us countless incredible stories which emerged from the darkness of unsurpassed bravery and courage displayed by Israelis. Anir Shapira, an IDF soldier who attended the Nova Festival, while dozens of young people were hiding in a portable bomb shelter,
stood at the entrance and tossed out grenade after grenade that had been thrown into the shelter. Kelly was killed. Rami Davidan, a Tish resident, drove back and forth to the music festival in his truck for hours, all the while under fire, and managed to rescue hundreds of young people that day. Members of the Kapasan family who decided to leave their home in Othniel to go to Kibbutz Be'eri for 16 hours. They rescued family after family, and a total of 100 people who were under siege in their homes. One was killed in the battle, but they were awarded a special 2024 Israeli Prize for heroism. An all-woman tank crew made history after plowing ahead with their tank towards Kibbutz Safa and Kibbutz Horit. Together with other commando units, they eliminated the threat posed by terrorists. The retired generals, Israel Z, Noam Pebun, and Yair Golan, all in their 70s, and years after retirement, left the comfort of their homes, quickly and fearlessly made their way to the communities in the Gaza and below. Yosef Ziada, a 47-year-old Bedouin Israeli minibus driver, who raced headlong into the massacre at the music festival, stuffing 30 people into his 14-seater bus. He said, "I would never wish on anyone to see what I saw. This is a trauma for my whole life. I can't help the tears. I told him to bring as many as possible. 30 people crammed into my 14-seater. Saida says he saw a motorized Hamas paraglider hovering above, and under constant gunfire, with his intimate knowledge of the terrain, which proved life-saving, he was able to cut a route through dirt roads, avoiding the main roads. Unfortunately, for the Jewish community since October the 7th, anti-Semitism exploded to levels that we have not seen since the Holocaust. What was once beneath the surface is now out in the open. Jews across the world are being blamed and targeted for the death and horrible misery caused by this terrible, terrible war. Instead of sympathy and outrage at the depravity of Hamas, the aftermath has been a drastic increase of hate. Trade unions, university students, faculty, politicians, and some religious leaders and professional associations have harassed and canceled Jews for sporting events, publishing, memberships, music and literary festivals, from pride celebrations, etc. These are somehow seen as righteous deeds, some perversely claiming October 7th was some sort of legitimate resistance. Many outrageously congratulated Hamas and denied the Jewish women were sexually assaulted. But despite the rising wave of anti-Semitism, Jews and Israelis in many countries tirelessly devoted themselves to multiple initiatives aimed at increasing global public awareness of the plight of the hostages. Here in Victoria, there were vigils, most notably at the Legislature and outside Congregation Emmanuel, appropriately on the eve of the commemoration of Crystal Month. Numerous heartwarming rallies of support for Israel and the Jewish community were organized by the Jewish and Christian communities. I have to admit, I struggled with the theme for tonight of From the Agony to the Harmony. I searched everywhere for meaning. I understood where the agony was coming from, but not the harmony. So I searched and I found this one definition that resonated with me. Harmony is a relationship in which various components exist together without destroying one another. The war and the increase of anti-Semitism resulted in disharmony and an ideological schism in the greater and the Jewish community, and the inability of our community to speak with one voice. Perhaps this is yet another more evidence of the ongoing trauma. Many of us are concerned with the safety and future of Israel and of the Jewish people in the world. All of us, regardless of where we live, are caught up in the war. We must be able to overcome this. The Middle East has been a hotbed for centuries, but despite a century's worth of pain and suffering, there must be a peaceful solution that does not call for the elimination of Jews and the state of Israel. We must collectively push back against hate and the call for destruction of the Jewish state. Notwithstanding diverging viewpoints, there must be a healing. We must rise above all this and be strong. Cher Georgie, one of the young Canadian victims on October 7th, had a lighthouse tattooed on her arm, corresponding to a quote attributed to her and printed on stickers pasted all around Israel after her death. Be sure to always keep your light bright and shining. You never know how many people you may be a lighthouse for. You never know how many people find their way home in even the wildest storms because you are there. So I say to you, let's all be there for each other.
Thank you so much. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Rabbi Lindrina, Rabbi Kuzmanim, who will share with us her personal reflections and lead us in Tavera, the prayer for healing. Good evening, everyone. When I first spoke at the JCC last October, I opened with two words, Aim me name. There are no words. Of course, words followed, many words, thousands more words have followed since that evening. But this evening, I want to highlight just two words, courage and hope. Many of you who have spoken already have taken the words out of my mouth. But no, there's no apology. We are all feeling the same. Today was horrendous. I think most of us have been feeling every emotion imaginable today. But we need to hold these two words and not just grief, and not just rage. So I will admit I have had both today and plenty. I want to highlight courage and hope. What does the concept of courage even mean to us here in Victoria? I think of our ancestors, our many ancestors who bravely set out on all manner of unknown journeys and new beginnings. I think of Goldie's mother, Hinda, leaving her Russian home and traveling on a boat to Canada alone at 13. I think of Lindy's father, Lionel, shooting down enemy planes during the 48 war. I think of Vienna's seeing the Congressos who trudged their way from Spain after being expelled in 1492, heading north and south and east. So much courage. Lech lecha in every generation. Courage is one of our words. Courage is something we've had to learn this year because October 7th was not just October 7th. It was October 8th. It was May 8th. It is every day from October 7th to today. How do we speak up?
What do we say? When do we act? What can I do? Courage. I see a friend that I've made, Michael, standing with courage every week in front of the anti-Israel crowd. Thank you. The willingness to stand around and speak up and not hide our faces and not hide our names. You don't have to like me. You don't have to agree with me, but you know who I am. Unlike those imposters who rage against Jews and rage against Israel, covering their faces and hiding their names, they're cowards. Every one of them. One of our challenges over this year has been watching the far too rapid isolation of Israel. We're in danger of Israel becoming a new pale of settlement. We must have the courage to not allow Israel to become that new pale, a new version of intellectual, creative, artistic, scientific isolation and confinement. We cannot allow academia and our politicians to limit access for Israelis to publish in academic journals or meet with colleagues. We cannot allow artists and theaters and feckless journalists to force Israelis into this pale. Isolation is emerging far too pervasively, and Israel needs our collective courage. We must speak up. We must stand up. And every day we're seeing more and more courage. Family members have woken up to the presence of hatred in their communities, and they found their courage. Everyone here tonight is showing courage. Recently, as Sarah Mully taught us, when asked, what can we do? What can we do here in Victoria to help Israel? She said, we must do the work of hope. We must do hope. In every way we can, every day, we must do hope. Every day, the creative chutzpah of our Israeli cousins, they're doing hope. Be it developing pagers for Hezbollah customers, or developing David's sling, holding weddings on the borders of Lebanon, or picking tomatoes in the sun. Every one of them is doing hope. And every day we too, we are obligated to do hope with our words, with our actions, with our courage. Courage needs hope, and hope demands courage. I want to offer two blessings. One for the hostages, for the 101. We hope so. Every day of it's our custom. We say a blessing for those who are bound in captivity. One of the oldest of our prayers, in fact, is a prayer for the release of captives. We have been held hostage for many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. This is the prayer. Our family, the whole house of Israel who are in distress or in captivity, who stand either in the sea or on dry land, may the one who is omnipresent have mercy on them and take them out from narrowness to expanse and from darkness to light and from oppression to redemption now, swiftly and soon. This prayer appears in a 12th century prayer book authored by one of the students of Rashi, a medieval biblical Talmudic commentator who lived in northern France. And it asks God to have mercy on all captives and bring them from narrowness to expanse and darkness to light. May it be so. And a brief Mishabah, a brief blessing for the soldiers of the idea. Mishabah, Habatain of Abraham Yitzhak, Yaakov, the Imotain of Sarabit, Kavacha Balel, Rivaret, Cheret, Sabah, and Israel. Bless the soldiers of Israel's defense forces and everyone who stands guard in order to protect our people. May the Holy One, blessed be God, protect them and save them from all troubles and affliction, from all sickness and injury, and send blessing to all their endeavors. May the words of the prophets come to fruition through them. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. And each one shall sit under the vine and under the fig tree. None shall be afraid. Let us say, Amen. May it be so. With that, I'd now like to introduce Rabbi Harry Brechner, Rabbi of the Congregation of the US, who will share with us his personal reflections and lead us in eternal life.
No, I really have no words. I just have heartbreak. They've lived a year now in heartbreak. And two things I know. One is, as a Jew, we're not allowed to despair. So drop that and let go. I want to give us all a definition for hope. Partially because we're all in trauma. Many of us haven't experienced direct trauma. It was adjacent trauma, but it's still trauma. And our whole people, whole Jewish world is dealing with collective trauma. But we're people that know trauma, because we've experienced it over and over again. Sitting right on top of the strands of our DNA according to epigenetics. The beauty is that we can heal. And I think the medicine to heal is hope. Hope isn't a wish. Hope isn't optimism. Hope is something else. Hope is faith, knowing deep down in the fibers of your being that we all together, and as individuals, have the capacity to transcend trauma. We have the capacity to choose connection and love. We have the capacity to ensure that all human life is sacred. We have the capacity to be the kind of people that we've always been, that we bounce back. And we bounce back in ways that are righteous, in ways that are caring, in ways that are loving. We can't let this trauma fragment us. We can't let this trauma send us to a place of despair and hopelessness. Hope in Hebrew is tikva. First time the word tikva appears is when Joshua sends the spies to Jericho. And Rahab, right, the archetypal, wonderful, righteous, holy harlot, saves these spies. And she says, I need some surety, so I know that you're going to come back into the land. And the Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, will take Jericho. And to save my family, what will be my sign? And the sign is that crimson thread. It's a tikvah. It's that thread. The thread that we can't see, but we can feel. The thread that connects all of our hearts together. The thread that really connects us to divine source. So something that I've been doing gives me a tiny bit of release. Because I know that it's really hard to heal from trauma when you're in a constant state of pain and anguish and anxiety. And I know that our brothers and sisters in Israel, they're living it every day. They're living it in real ways. We have it, but we also have the ability, perhaps, to do some healing for our sake, for their sake, the sake of Jews all across our planet. But right now we have shofar. We have those prayers and those feelings that are just inside our bodies, that visceral stuff. And I'm going to just blow one yakidolah, the tiniest shofar I can find. And my hope is that you can let out some of the anguish and some of the pain to strengthen yourselves, to strengthen ourselves, to hold on to that hope. Because we will transcend. We will find our path to justice and to shalom. And shalom isn't just peace. Shalom is wholeness. It comes from healing. So if you want, I want to invite all of you to let out a bishai in Yiddish. I just sigh, groan, whatever it is that you need, right? And we'll do it together with the shofar. So, we light candles. Teaches in Proverbs that God's lamp is the human soul. We do it to remember. We do it to hold light. We do it to connect. And candles we're lighting going to be for some people that Peter read to us about. The 8 Canadians who were senselessly murdered on October 7th. Shabbat Shalom. So I'm going to call people up. I think all the people that are calling all have a different and distinct connection to Israel. Some of us hold connections to these very people as well. So first, I'd like to call up Mark Humphreys, who's lighting to Drew Feinstein. I'd like to invite Isabel Steinberg, who's lighting to Victoria Lapido. Francis Greenberg is lighting for Ben Zafi. Judith Cohen is lighting for Netta Epstein. Noah Gilad is lighting for Shir Gregory. Michael Greenberg is lighting for Alexander Luke. Michael Bluefield. Yeah. Ah. Leslie Friedman is lighting for Adi Vital. Rabbi Greenhoff is lighting for all the hostages. A flame of hope. Joanna Katz is lighting for fallen IDF soldiers. Mark Bressler is lighting for Vivian Silver. I'm going to be lighting for all the people who have lost brothers, sisters, fathers, mothers, cousins, aunts, uncles, friends. All of the lives that have been shattered, all of the people who have lost homes, all of the people whose bodies will never work the same way again, all of the pain, all of the hearts that have been broken. May we all come back together. When we come back together, may we come back so much stronger. May we be able to come back someday soon in peace.
And finally, I would like to introduce Rabbi Mayor Kaplan, Rabbi of Vancouver Island, who will share with us his personal reflections and lead us in the Kaddish.
Seventh, the such intense emotions, so much unbearable pain, disappointment, sometimes anger, so much going on in each one of us right now. So much in the last year, too much to handle. Or maybe today, we have to remember these souls. Think about hundreds, young boys and girls, men and women, in a music festival, in a synagogue, in a home, in a bedroom, babies, children. And we still hear more young boys who are losing their life in battle. You know, we say the prayer in the holiday, we say it's Kol Elokim, may God remember. Because we human, how much can we remember? How much memory can we hold? Can we hold the memory of one individual? To hold the memory of hundreds of these souls. Not something we are capable of doing. Let me share with you the memory of one soul that made an impression on me, and I know on many other Jews. There's a young boy with the name Yehuda Becher. Yehuda Becher was at the Melbourne Music Festival. So brutally killed by these terrorists. I think it's important that we all know when he walked in that music festival, they said in Arab, Ibach Eliyahu, kill the Jews. That was directly asked to. And this young boy, after he was killed, a video came out of him singing a song to a friend. I want to lift up his spirit. And you see this boy full of life, full of faith, full of excitement, singing this prayer, first prayer that we say in the morning. Elokai neshama shenatata bi teorai, which means, God, the soul that you blew into me is pure. כל זמן שהנשמה בקרבי מודה אני לפניך, השם אלוקיי ואלוקי אבותיי, ריבון כל המעשים, אדון כל הנשמות. Which means while my soul is within me, my task is to thank you and to remember that you are the master of all. So we learned this song, I learned this song from Yehuda Becher after he passed away. And some of you learned it from him as well. So that is check it. And please join. אלוקיי, נשמה שנתת בי, באוריי, אתה ונתת יסודה, אתה נפחת בי, ואתה נשמה בקרבי, ואתה תקרא ממני ולחזירה בלעתי לבוא. כל זמן שהנשמה בקרבי, מודה אני לפניך. כל זמן שהנשמה בקרבי, מודה אני לפניך. השם אלוקיי ואלוקי אבותיי, אלוהים כל המעשים, אדון כל הנשמות, אלוהים כל המעשים. His eyes for Kaddish. Seal it.
In closing then, we'd just like to thank all of our musicians tonight, Auburn, Julian, Annabelle. We talk about hope. Music is what gives us hope. I would also like to thank all of our speakers tonight, our candlelighters, our special guests who joined us this evening, all of you who took the time here in person, and all of you who took the time to join us online. You are also in our hearts. And just to say, as we begin a new year, that I hope there is much more sweetness for all of us. Thank you and good night.